Today we're going to learn what object-oriented programming is. So this is a big, scary topic for a lot of freshmen. It is really important, but I promise it's not as bad as you think. So for now, you can think of object-oriented programming as a way of creating your own types. So you do that by creating what's called a class, and a class only has two things in it: member data and member functions. So I'm going to paste a class in here, and then I'm going to explain all the parts, and hopefully this will click by the end of the video. So let's say we wanted a class to represent a student object. So let's say for a student we care about their name and GPA. So we're going to type class student curly braces and put in our member variables. So we have a name as a string and a GPA as a double. Now the last confusing part about this is the constructor. So all you need to know about the constructor is that it runs automatically when an object is created. It's going to store these two values into these variables. And for example's sake, I have one additional function called getGPA, which just returns the GPA. Now the thing to understand about object-oriented programming that makes it a lot easier to digest is to think of this as a blueprint. It's just a template. None of this actually exists yet, but it will exist when we create an object. So let's do that right now. Similar to the way you would type int n equals 5, we're going to type student s equals and then new student and fill in the values for the constructor. So now this s value is an instantiation of this class. It has a name, it has a GPA, and we can call functions on that. So we can print s.getGPA, and we're going to print 3.2 to the screen. Where this starts to click is when you start making new objects. So we can make a new student, something like that, and now these are two separate objects with two separate variables. So if I printed s.getGPA, I'll print 3.2. But if I now print s1.getGPA, I'm printing 4.2. So we can take this a step further. Classes don't have to literally represent like objects in the real world like a student. We can make classes for anything, and when you program in real life, you're going to be making classes all day long. So here's a class called Student Manager. Its member data is a list of students, and we have a function to add a student to that list. We also have this fancy function. Don't worry about what it does, it's just for example's sake. So we can go up here and we can actually start playing with this. We'll make a new student manager, we'll add a bunch of students to it, and then we'll run that function. So we do student manager equals new student manager, and little pro tip here, we don't need to store this in a variable. Like I could sit here and add s, because this add student is expecting to take in a student type, but there's no point in wasting memory space like that. We can just type new student right in there like that. So we've added 3 students to this list inside of Student Manager, and now I can call studentmanager.getByGPA, and the value of this will be an array with these two student objects inside of it.